So we've just been going over a bit of an uneven piece of road, and it is a little bit bumpy, but you do have adjustable rear suspension on this, and I haven't touched the rear shock. So depending on how much you weigh and depending on what kind of road surface you're riding on, you can adjust that rear shock to give you a bit more comfort if you want, or a bit more feeling going through the corners, should that be what you're after. A little commute test. I think this is the kind of distances most people will be doing, somewhere between, I don't know, 3 and 8 miles each way, and this is an absolute breeze. There's nothing complicated about it. It's really easy to ride. It's quite good fun going around the corners. Positive brakes. I started out, I think, with 50 miles of range in normal mode, and I've been using a combination mostly of normal and a bit of sports and a little bit of eco as well, so it's kind of a reasonable test. But one thing that is definitely worth mentioning is it's quite a windy day today, so I rode all the way there into the wind, and almost everything here in Bristol is either uphill or downhill. So if you live in a part of the country where it's a bit flatter, I think your range would be a bit more accurate. So I've done about 8.5 miles. I started out with 50 miles of range according to the battery, and I've come back and I've got 37. So she reckons it's dropped by 13 miles, and I've done about 8.5. But again, that was using sport mode. So I think actually if you stayed in normal mode and you were on a bit of a flatter part of the world, I think that's fairly accurate. So this is me, back at base, Avon Motorcycles. I hope you enjoyed this review of the Super Soco TC 1500. Okay, so I just got back to the shop, and I just wanted to come back to the bike and double check something. I wanted to check the remaining percentage of the battery. So I've come back, I've got the bike in normal mode, setting 2, and it tells me I've got 37 miles of range remaining. It also tells me I've got 50 miles on the odometer now, so I started out on 41, so according to this I put 9 miles on it, and I've used 25% of the battery. So I should be able to have 9 times 4. So using it the way I was, I'd get 36 miles of range out of the battery before it was flat. And that's going up and down hills in Bristol the whole way. So there's some real world figures for you. You can use the bike the way I used it, and you get about 36 miles off the charge out of it. You can use it more efficiently than that.
Okay, so we've been out on the bike, we've run through the features, and we've taken it on the road. Now there were 2 things I really wanted to check on the test ride. Firstly, Super Soco told us that this bike's got about a 45 mile an hour top speed. I think today we found 40 was a pretty average, it was a pretty reasonable top speed. 45, I did manage to achieve that, but that was with a little bit of downhill and a little bit of tailwind. So it depends on how heavy you are, but I'd say 40 miles an hour is a good top speed. The second thing was what we wanted to see was the range. So Super Soco told us that it'll do about 35 to 40 miles on a battery charge. I think based on the figures we saw today, I think that's perfectly achievable. So at the moment, on average in the UK, electricity costs you about 12 to 16 pence per kilowatt hour from most electricity suppliers. Based on the figures that Super Soco have given us, that works out to be about £1 for about 100 miles worth of range. Now if you convert that to a normal combustion petrol scooter, at the moment they're doing about 80 to 110 miles per gallon. So about 100 miles will cost you a gallon of fuel, and a gallon of fuel is £5.40. So the Soco will do 100 miles for £1 of electricity. A petrol scooter will do 100 miles, give or take, for between £5 and £6. So it's 20% of the running cost of a petrol scooter. It's also road tax exempt, which is a nice little plus every year. Lastly, there is a government grant for this bike. We get £700 from the government to give away to the customer, so the on-the-road price to you is £700 less than it should be. Thank you for watching the video. I hope this answered all your questions. If you have any more, feel free to leave a comment and we'll try and answer them all. Thank you for watching.